tell us about breakthrough coaching.
Sure. Breakthrough coaching is a result of about 20 years of work um, as a health high performance coach and seven books on health, diet, fitness, relationships, mindset. And what I've learned over those 20 years, I've also been a yoga instructor for 20 years.
What kind of
Um,
yoga?
I teach
Who,
all kinds. I teach hatha, ashtanga, power yoga, vinyasa.
who do you study with?
I initially studied, believe it or not, with Bikram, with
Okay,
Bikram
that's okay.
Chowdhury when he first
He's a,
came
he's
to
an
Los
interesting
Angeles.
he's an interesting character.
Yeah, but that was my first experience, which was maybe for a year, and then that was enough for that. I
Right.
moved on from that. It was a little bit too militant for me.
No, no, enough said. But you moved on, and
Yeah.
who did you find that inspired you?
Brian Kest. Have you heard of
Oh,
Brian Kest?
well, enough to know that he's authentic.
Yeah, he was the founder of Power Yoga.
No, I understand. And the reason I'm asking is I had 5 years with Ramamurti Mishra. I don't know if you know him. He wrote the textbook of yoga psychology. He wrote a commentary on Patanjali Sutras. He had ashrams all over the world, and he was a remarkable MD PhD who was documenting yoga at the time. This was the 1970s, late 1970s.
Yeah, yeah, that's some good experience. I think Brian trained with Patabi Jwa
Yes.
and in India, so I was kind of getting some direct
Hmm.
translation from that. That was a big inspiration to me. It was a very different type of yoga. It was more about reflective and looking in and addressing your insecurities, which is why he became very well known in the yoga fields because it was very different. It was like, you got to, hyper focused on your form and all that. He really wasn't like that. He was more just, let's do this pose. This is going to challenge you. We'll get this posture right, but let's really look in and see what's going on in your head. Like, are you freaking out right now? Or what are you thinking in your head? Are you thinking about the past? Are you thinking about the future? You know, and to try to quiet your mind and focus in on the moment right now. And it's really, really just about the biggest lesson I learned was this is about training yourself to be in the moment and to conquer your insecurities and fears.
Well, you let them fall away by witnessing them and staying non-attached to them. As you know, there are 7 different kinds of yoga. Most people stop at Hatha Prana, but you had immersion in what I would call complete yoga.
Yeah, a lot of teachers, I did do training, like I got certified and all that, but the biggest lessons I learned were from the teachers, the master teachers that I went and did workshops with, and all the different teachers I took from that had, little nuggets, so if there's anybody listening that wants to like learn yoga, you got to go to a lot of different teachers. That's how you're really going to learn, and then you'll find maybe one, two, or three that are like, yeah, this is my style. And I find a lot of people, a lot of students, um, well, who actually don't become students is because they'll have an initial experience with a yoga teacher that they don't resonate with. And then they're like, oh, I don't like yoga. But it really, I mean, yoga is for everybody. Literally, there is a yoga teacher out there for every single person on this planet, and you just got to find them. So,
You have to look and you have to practice before you need the benefits of the practice. I'm hearing that loud and clear, and I agree completely. When you're in the midst of a trauma or a turmoil or a fire, that's not the time to need to do the practice. You must practice before so you have the resources to stay in the moment, to stay at peace, regardless of what's going on around you. It could be a hurricane. At the
Yeah.
eye of the storm, it's actually peaceful.
Right.
Well, um, I've done my practice. I don't need to explain more than that, but I'm on your wavelength. I think exploring is a very important part of the process. Finding the people you resonate with and asking yourself for the people you don't resonate with, why not? Why didn't I
Yeah.
connect with them?
That's a good
Because
question.
I did what you're suggesting. I went around, I found a few that I really stuck with, but I was very fortunate in that my skepticism and my Western orientation were not rejected by them. They were bemused by me, but at least I showed up and practiced.
Yeah. Yeah, it's there's a lot of opportunities for reflection, if you're able to reflect, and that's really, in
I
my
might want to I
experience.
might want to explore that a little bit because I have a
Sure.
specific point of view. I'd like to know your point of view about this specific fact. I think that much, quote, therapy today is reliving the trauma, and I don't recommend that.
I agree.
Or taking a prescription that chemically creates a straitjacket so you're not aware of what's going on down below or inside. My view is you want to go back to the trauma, but witness it with non-attachment and with the possibility that there's some benefit at the end of that inquiry for you.
Yeah.
I've spent a fair amount of time trying to do that or doing that. It's like, do you pick up the cup or do you try to pick up the cup?
Yeah. Yeah. Do not try.
Yeah, do not try. And Bhante, this Cambodian Buddhist monk that we have a book coming out shortly, I had 30 years with him from the time he was 80 till he was 110. And that was probably the most important spiritual and overall style mentor. So I'm interested in whether you think that traumas can maybe be resolved when you witness them slowly, but witness them non-attached. You don't
Yeah.
have that hormonal, emotional, internal surge, which is the trauma relived. What do you think?
Yeah. Absolutely. My life's work has been encapsulated in a training I created called the Winner's Mindset. And it took me 10 years to create this training. And what it was basically is it's trying to understand the purpose of challenges, the purpose of trauma. What is it there for? What is it there for, really? Like, is it there just to make us crazy and make us scared the rest of our life? Or is there a deeper reason for that trauma and challenges and all the obstacles we have in our life? And so, at the root of it really is that at the end of the day, we all have traumas and challenges and problems. And our goal, our mission in life is to overcome those and learn from them and grow. The greatest analogy I like of this is the old ancient Eastern analogy of throwing a rock into, let's say, we'll call it, let's see, a cup of water first, right? You take this one little pebble, you throw it into a cup of water and it splashes everywhere. The pebble is your problem. The cup of water is your life and your capacity to handle challenges. Right now, if you take that same pebble and you throw it in the ocean, it's going to absorb. You're not going to see much of a ripple at all. Right? So this is one of the oldest, most ancient Eastern analogies of what your life purpose is to become that ocean, the
That's the
ocean where you,
point. Sai Baba pointed out that we should join the ocean of life. We should be connected to the web of life, like Fritjof Capra has written a lovely book about. That's a profound insight that most Western people overlook.
Oh yeah, I mean, the goal here, and not this is not everybody, and I think we're moving in the right direction, but the majority, I think people are moving away from problems, trying to get away from problems as quick as possible with the quickest distraction, with the quickest pill they can possibly do, and they're missing the entire point of life. Like if you get to the end of your life and all you've done is try to distract yourself from your problems and your challenges, you will have so much regret. You will have so much regret, and that regret will most likely translate into some kind of illness, cancer, heart
Heart
disease.
disease, autoimmune.
Yeah,
Absolutely correct. I have spent near half a century trying to understand the causes, not just the symptomatic consequences of ill health. And almost always behind the surface, there's a trauma,
yeah,
an
absolutely.
unresolved trauma that can be resolved. The good
Right.
news is the body forgives, the spirit is always available. I think the soul can always be cured. The body is another story. That was taught to me by Olga Worrell. She was a laying on of hands healer, the best documented healer of the 20th century. She started the New Life Clinic in Baltimore, Maryland in 1953. Her work has been continued by Dr. Robert Leichman, a friend of mine, a medical doctor who was devoting his life to spiritual writing and practices because he feels the short attention span of today is part of the problem. You have to slow down enough to be present in the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to your question about can it be solved, trauma, like I was telling you about this, my life's work encapsulated in the winner's mindset. So one of the things that I did was took this really long journey of trying to figure out how to do exactly what your question was. How can you get rid of the trauma and become non-reactive? Like in a situation that would totally trigger you before, it doesn't do that anymore. And the first thing is it doesn't happen overnight. That's the first thing people have to understand. They want, our brains are wired to want instant gratification. We need to know that going in. Like you're going to want instant gratification, you're going to want a pill, but you need to resist that. You know, breathe deep, focus on the process, not the outcome. Just focus on the process. Let's move and breathe, and we'll go through these different exercises to uncover first what your real belief is, because the winner's mindset, my training, is all about really uncovering what your belief is and the identity that those beliefs have created. That's who you are right now. And so if we can uncover those beliefs that maybe have been triggered by trauma in your past, or wherever they were created, and then we first just create this awareness. Okay, wait, I'm being triggered because I had this challenge in the past or whatever, and I believe this. I believe I'm not good enough. People told me this all the time. I just wasn't good enough. And say, okay, wait. Now that's where my trigger's coming from. So here's my first step is just awareness. I'm aware now. Wow, that's a huge revelation for a lot of people. Then they stop stuffing themselves with distractions.
Right.
And like, okay, wait. I've uncovered the first step, which is awareness. I know where my trigger is coming from. Now, let's address it. Let's address it both psychologically, physically, and spiritually. So, and what I use a combination of tools like cognitive behavioral therapy
Mhm.
to talk about, your belief triggers a thought. Your thought triggers emotions. Your emotions trigger actions. Your actions create your results, and your results reinforce your beliefs. So if we can handle that belief, if we can change that belief, we can start chipping away at it and create a new belief. I am good enough. I am great. I am worthy. We could create that belief and override the old belief. What really happens physically, first of all, we can just talk about the neurons in the brain. Your neurons are, Hebb's law. Neurons that fire together wire together. So if you've been thinking this stuff all, 10, 20, 30 years, and you've got this wiring in your brain that says you are now worthy, you got to do some unwiring. And the main way to unwire these old ones is to create new ones. So if we start doing the work, whether that's, writing things, speaking things, being around really amazing people and hearing their positive reinforcement. And then we start creating these new neural connections. And these old ones stop firing. They stop firing. And then when they stop firing, they start disconnecting. And then the emotional trauma stops triggering. But again, it takes some time. People, it takes time. Like in this winner's mindset training I have, I tell people, give yourself a year.
Right.
Give yourself at least 1 year of your life to change the rest of your life.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah,
And Richie
absolutely.
Davidson, a researcher at Wisconsin University at Madison, has shown that after 10,000 hours of meditation or practice, your brain changes.
Yeah,
And I was one of the first people in that machine. And I'm glad to tell you that we can now document what you have just said in a very articulate, succinct way. How do people find you?
people can find me at chadscottcoaching.com. We've got
ChadScottCoaching.com.
we've got all kinds of books and trainings, and you want to grow and you want to advance, you want to make your dreams come true, all kinds of good stuff for that.
Terrific. Now, we haven't really, maybe some other time we can explore more how diet and supplementation add to this mix, how
Absolutely.
spiritual development can be cultivated by everyone.
Absolutely.
I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about spirituality. You might have a religion. I do. I'm very traditional. But my spiritual practices, my spiritual development, my spiritual pillars that have allowed me to stand in the midst of chaos and trauma and find a way that benefits everyone.
Absolutely.
If you can slow down enough, if you've had enough practice, it helps to have a little insight. As you said, hang out with people who are insightful. You'll pick up pearls and understandings.
Right.
So, Chad Scott, I'm so glad we had today. I'm just meeting you. I think we have much in common, and I look forward to another dialogue when it's possible and convenient.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. You take care.